Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Hypnovision Studios. I am your host, Nicholas, but I'm not just your host. I am also an inspiring author. And today I am bringing back something that was at the very beginning of my channel, and that is the past lives of Paris. Today I am bringing you an extension of the story between Gabriel and Genevieve. And yes, these names do have a very symbolic meaning in my writings. And today we are going to start the first of the 5 chapters that I have written recently. And the theme of this is called What Happens to the Healer Once the Healing Session Ends. This is Genevieve's journey, not of fixing, but of remembering. The story explores her private awakenings, the silence she holds for others, and the slow, mystical realization that she was never just a guide, but she was being guided also. The first chapter of Genevieve's entry is called The Memory Beneath the Stillness. He closed his eyes again tonight. I watched the muscles in his face release. His breathing slow, the usual storm softening into the silence I've come to know so well. It always begins like this, with him sinking inward, and me staying very still like a lighthouse in the fog. But something was different tonight, not in him, in me. I felt it beneath the rhythm of his words, a sensation like walking into a room you've never seen before, yet everything feels familiar. I don't know how to explain it. It wasn't what he said. It was how my body responded. My heart ached at certain pauses. My eyes blurred at the sound of rain in his memory. I saw a red ribbon again, same from last night's dream, draped over the wrist of a woman standing barefooted in the middle of a temple. I think that woman was me. And not just in a symbolic way. I think I've walked where he's walked before. I think I've felt the silence that he remembers, but from a different angle, a softer one woven in grace, patience, and an ache I've never dared speak aloud. Could it be that our lives once touched in a different place beyond time? That what he remembers as isolation, I remember as waiting. The divine feminine in me is stirring. She is asking me to go deeper, to stop hiding behind the sacred role I've played for others, to stop being quiet and have strength and start using the voice of remembrance. This journal isn't about him anymore. It's about what I see when he closes his eyes and I feel when mine open. So guys, the past life of Paris is truly something that I wrote. It came from a lot of dreams that I had. And, in the beginning when I started having these dreams, I kind of felt like I was going a bit crazy because they were really, really vivid. And it happened when I was going through a process of journaling. And I started to see a lot of colors in my sleep. A lot of green. So I did a lot of research into dreams and that kind of stuff. So this stuff really did come from the heart, and it's taken me a while to get back to these stories because they do have a sense of emotional intensity to them at times. And when it comes to reading on a microphone, on a camera, and putting it on YouTube, trying to keep my composure with something that is such a personal story for me is taking some time for me to be able to get back to these stories and start to really express them even further. The next entry in Genevieve's journal. I saw it again last night, the red ribbon. This time it was just floating. It was tethered to something or someone. A delicate wrist, pale from the cold, belonging to a woman who looked far too familiar. She stood on cobblestone, rain soaking the hem of her white dress, yet she didn't move. She looked up at a soft glow from the lantern above, and I swear she was waiting for someone, or maybe mourning the one who never arrived. And guys, I am starting to radiate with chills right now. That's when the ache began in my chest. Not fear, not sadness, but recognition. I don't know how to explain it without sounding unhinged, but I think that woman was me. Not a dream version of me, a memory, carved deep within the fabric of my soul. I felt the pull before. This time, it showed itself in color, in sound, in the scent of rain on stone and the weight of hope left hanging in the air. It makes sense now why I felt so much when Gabriel mentioned the rain in his story. Why my hand intrinsically covered my heart. Why my eyes blurred. He is remembering the isolation, and I am remembering the waiting. Two sides, one moment, one pain that split into timelines. I don't believe in coincidences anymore. I believe in the soul echoes, and that ribbon, crimson against the wet gray, isn't just a symbol of the past. It's a thread I am meant to follow. A thread that may lead me not to him, but to a part of myself I left behind when the door never opened and the night swallowed my longing. I think it is time I follow the rain. Genevieve. So guys, these stories do hold a very personal, emotional meaning to me, and it also is something that is very deeply inside of me. That is all I can say to you guys is it has a lot of meaning to me. So I am very grateful if you're sticking around and listening to the rest of these chapters. I am truly, truly grateful. So the next chapter is called Mirrors in the Moonlight, and it is a reflection that is coming through her journal. I couldn't sleep. Something inside of me needed to move, to feel the earth beneath my feet. So I left the house quietly and I walked toward the lake. The moon high and full, like a guardian in the sky. When I reached the water's edge, the wind met me, soft, like it already knew that I was coming. I stepped out of my sandals, let the damp earth welcome me, and I stood barefooted on the shoreline. And there she was, not me, and yet unmistakably me. She appeared in the reflection, but she wasn't wearing what I had on. Her clothes were robes, ancient and woven with a thread I couldn't name. Her eyes glowed with a knowing that sent chills down my spine and a warmth up my bones. I stood still. She did too. But something passed between us. Something I hadn't allowed myself to feel since I began this inner path. Reverence. I realized I've spent so long being strong, still, grounded for everyone, even for him. But I never looked at my own reflection long enough to remember the divine in me. That reflection tonight wasn't just a vision, it was a return. She's the me I forgot in this life of tendering to others. She's the woman who once held sacred rites, whose silence carried prophecy, whose hands lit candles, and whose tears once called the moon. I am her, and she is me. And tonight, under the light of the same moon she once danced beneath, I remembered. Genevieve. Guys, as I read these, I am getting hit with waves and waves of chills. And I don't know if you can really tell it on the other side of the camera, but Um, I'm actually having a response to reading the stories right now and hearing myself in the headphones live as I go on. The next entry from Genevieve is The Voice Beyond the Veil. I lit a single candle tonight. No incense, no music, just silence. I sat near the window where the veil hangs, delicate, translucent, untouched for weeks. Yet tonight it moved, not from the breeze, but from something deeper. I watched it sway slowly, like it was breathing, like it was alive. And then I saw them, not clearly, not in full form, but silhouettes. Women gathered in the distance beyond the veil. Their outlines shimmered like moonlight on water. I couldn't see their faces, but I could feel their presence, warm, protective, and knowing. One of them stepped forward. She didn't speak, but her message rang through me, through my entire being. You come from us. My breath caught. 1,000 memories that I've never remembered flooded through my senses, like the memory coming back to me. The ceremonies in the desert, the lullabies in language, and I've never heard. Births and deaths and rebirths and sacred circles. They were not strangers, they were me. Or perhaps I am the continuation of them. My role has always been to hold space, but now I understand. My stillness is not empty. It is full of every woman who came before me. Their strength moves through me. Their softness lives in my tears. The veil was not just a fabric. It was the threshold between forgetting and remembering. And tonight, I listened. I didn't ask them to stay. I only whispered, "Thank you." And I let the candle burn all the way down. Genevieve. Next entry. Letters never sent. There are things you can never say aloud. Not because they're too painful, but because they were never meant to be answered. Tonight, I found a stack of blank envelopes tucked in the drawer of my writing desk. I took one, then another, until I had 5. I lit a single candle and I began reading. Not to anyone here, not to anyone now. These were letters that were lost in time. One was to him when we were younger, before the silence became between us. One was to the version of me who waited by the temple gates. One was to the voice I heard beyond the veil. And one was to the divine. And one was to the life I never let myself want. I poured my soul into those pages. No punctuation, no filters, just truth, as raw and sacred as the breath itself. I didn't read them again. I didn't even seal them. I simply tied them with twine and placed them on the nearby window, where the light of the sunset wrapped them in gold. I think there's something healing about writing what you never intended to send. It removes expectations. It clears the path for release. These letters were not for closure. They were for remembrance. To remind myself that even love had no place to land. It still existed. And that is enough. Sincerely, Genevieve. So the next entry is called The Paris Window. I didn't plan on standing here this long. The window is tall and old, just like I remember from that little flat we stayed in all those years ago. I don't even need to close my eyes to picture the rooftops anymore. Paris lives inside of me, in muscle memory, in scent, in the softness behind my eyes. As I stand here, hand resting on the sill, I feel time ripple, and I'm not in this moment. I am in all of them at once. The first kiss, the train ride, the sound of his voice echoing in narrow alleyways, the silence we didn't know we had to feel, the laughter we didn't know how to hold. The city gave me both. It's strange how I've spent years telling myself I needed to go back, when the truth is I never really left. I carried Paris like a second heartbeat. And maybe that's the real lesson. We don't have to revisit places physically to revive the parts of us that never left. We can travel inward. We can close our eyes, breathe, and meet ourselves where we are. And that is what has become a lesson from this window, a mirror, a portal, a place to finally say, thank you for everything. I am ready to come home now, not to Paris, but to myself. Guys, I am very grateful for this opportunity. And as you can tell, these stories do hold a lot of sentimental value to me. And it's taken a lot for me to get to this point. But again, anything is possible. A year ago, 2 years ago, I never saw myself being a YouTube creator. I never saw myself talking about a lot of these topics openly that I've put on my channel in the last few months. And for that, for all of you out there, I am grateful. And one of the biggest things about my channel that I want you all to know is that anything is possible, guys. It really is. Because if I can do it, I know you can. And I want you guys to know that I love you all. And I'm very appreciative.